17 seconds is all the quantum field needs to react. Not hours of effort. Not years of struggle. Not endless repetition of words you do not believe. Just 17 seconds of coherent, uninterrupted focus. That is the ignition point. That is the breach in the firewall of repeating reality. Your life does not repeat because fate is cruel. It repeats because intention never stabilizes long enough to reorganize the field. Thoughts flicker. Emotions contradict. Desires rise and collapse within seconds. The signal never locks. And the quantum field responds only to coherent instruction. Reality mirrors internal state, not spoken desire. For 17 seconds, if you hold one thought without doubt, without internal argument, without drifting into fear, something measurable begins to occur. Scattered mental noise condenses into a single frequency. And frequency is instruction. The field does not respond to effort. It responds to resonance. Most people never reach that threshold. They think about what they want for 3 seconds, then remember what they fear. They imagine abundance, then immediately question how. They picture love, then recall betrayal. The signal fragments before it stabilizes. The field receives mixed commands and maintains the current pattern. Not because it is resistant, but because it is precise. This is the law. 17 seconds of pure focus is not visualization. It is identity stabilization. It is the moment when you stop asking and start being. And in that being, the quantum field begins reorganizing probabilities around you. You are not a passive observer standing outside a rigid universe. You are consciousness itself, interfacing with a responsive field of infinite potential. You are not small. You are not separate. You are the focal point through which reality selects its next expression. The repetition in your life is not punishment. It is feedback. It reveals where your frequency remains unchanged. Change the frequency, and the mirror must change. Not by force. Not by chasing. Not by convincing the world. By stabilizing your inner state for 17 uninterrupted seconds. When focus becomes steady, intention becomes gravity. And gravity bends possibility. What you call coincidence begins to reorganize. What you call luck becomes alignment. What you call time begins to soften. Creation does not happen in the future. It happens now. In the present moment, through stabilized awareness. 17 seconds is the doorway. Cross it, and the field begins to move. You do not need to try harder. You need to hold steadier. This is not motivation. This is mechanics. And once you understand that reality reorganizes itself around sustained frequency, you will never approach your inner world carelessly again. Every focused moment becomes creative. Every stabilized emotion becomes directive. You are not waiting for reality to change. Reality is waiting for your signal to lock. If you are aligned with this frequency, subscribe and remain within it. The quantum field does not hear your words. It does not respond to the sentences you repeat in the mirror. It does not reorganize itself because you whispered a desire before sleep. It does not calculate based on vocabulary. It calculates based on vibration. Emotion equals frequency. Frequency equals instruction. You can say the words "I am abundant" while feeling fear in your chest, and the field will respond to the fear. You can repeat "I am loved" while carrying contraction in your body, and the field will respond to the contraction. The field does not judge this. It simply mirrors it. Reality mirrors inner state, not verbal declaration. Affirmations without embodiment are scattered light. They flicker briefly, then dissolve into the dominant emotional baseline you carry throughout the day. And that baseline is what the field reads as your true command. Emotional coherence is different. Coherence is when thought and feeling move in the same direction. When the image in your mind matches the sensation in your body. When there is no argument between what you want and what you believe. In that moment, the signal stabilizes. This is why fragmented attention weakens manifestation. If you hold a desire for 5 seconds, then check for evidence, then worry about timing, then remember past failure, your frequency is no longer singular. It is fractured. The field receives conflicting instructions and preserves the current arrangement. Not because it refuses you. Because it reflects you. 17 seconds of focus begins the process. But those seconds must be emotionally aligned. A calm, grounded, embodied knowing. Not frantic wanting. Not desperate hoping. Not forced positivity. Emotion is guidance. Expansion in the body means alignment. Contraction means misalignment. When you imagine your desired reality and feel spacious, steady, open, you are broadcasting coherence. When you imagine it and feel tight, impatient, doubtful, you are broadcasting resistance. The field amplifies what is stabilized. It does not respond to the loudest thought. It responds to the most consistent frequency. And consistency is emotional, not verbal. This is why forcing affirmations feels exhausting. You are attempting to override emotion with language. But the body does not lie. The nervous system carries your true signal. And the quantum field reads that signal instantly. To change reality, you do not need better phrases. You need better alignment. Hold the thought. Feel it fully. Let the emotion match the vision. Allow the sensation of already being to settle into your chest. Stay there. That is instruction. That is transmission. Not by shouting at the universe. By stabilizing within yourself. When you understand this, manifestation becomes quieter. Softer. More precise. You stop performing belief and begin embodying it. Like the video now as a confirmation that this recognition has landed. Because once you see that the field responds to emotional coherence, you will never again confuse words with power. Most intentions do not fail because they are impossible. They collapse because they are unstable. You begin with clarity. You hold the image. You feel the possibility. For a few seconds, the signal strengthens. The field begins to register coherence. And then doubt enters. Will this actually happen? The moment that question appears, the frequency fractures. The 17-second window resets. The instruction weakens. Not because the field rejected you, but because you withdrew the command. Doubt is not a moral failure. It is vibrational interference. Impatience does the same. When you imagine your desired reality and immediately scan the physical world for proof, you signal lack. When you ask why it has not happened yet, you declare that it is not here. And the quantum field, precise and neutral, mirrors that absence back to you. Impatience is contraction. Contraction is resistance. Expansion, on the other hand, feels different. It feels open. Steady. Certain without urgency. When you hold your intention and feel calm expectancy, the signal stabilizes. There is no grasping. No chasing. No forcing. This is the principle most overlook. Forcing repels. Allowing attracts. When you attempt to control outcomes, you compress your frequency. You tighten around the desire. You send the message that the current moment is insufficient. That compression distorts the signal. The field responds by maintaining the familiar pattern, because your dominant frequency remains unchanged. Control is not power. It is mistrust. Allowing is power. Allowing does not mean passivity. It means holding the intention without strangling it. It means sustaining focus without interrogating it. It means trusting that once the signal locks, the reorganization begins whether you see it or not. The 17-second threshold is delicate. Within that window, every emotional shift matters. A single surge of fear can collapse coherence. A sudden memory of failure can dissolve expansion. The signal must remain steady long enough for energetic gravity to build. Most people never let it build. They ignite the spark, then extinguish it with analysis. They begin to align, then disrupt alignment with control. They attempt to command reality, instead of stabilizing within it. You are not here to force outcomes into existence. You are here to become the frequency that makes them inevitable. When expansion is present, you feel light, open, capable. When contraction appears, you feel tight, defensive, urgent. These sensations are guidance. They tell you instantly whether your signal is strengthening or collapsing. The field is always responding. The question is whether your instruction is coherent. 17 seconds of steady expansion begins the shift. 17 seconds without doubt begins the reorganization. 17 seconds without control establishes trust. Comment with the words "I am ready to anchor this timeline." Because once you understand why intentions collapse, you stop blaming reality. And you begin stabilizing your frequency instead. Now we move from understanding into mechanics. Not philosophy. Not inspiration. Mechanics. Because the quantum field does not respond to hope. It responds to coherence. Coherence is the moment the signal locks. Imagine ordinary light. It spreads in all directions. The photons are scattered, moving in different phases, different orientations. It illuminates a room, but it does not cut through steel. Its power is diffused. Now imagine a laser. In a laser beam, every photon is aligned. Same direction. Same frequency. Same phase. The energy is no longer scattered. It is concentrated. Focused. Coherent. And because of that coherence, it gains extraordinary power. Your mind works the same way. Most thoughts are scattered light. 1 second you desire expansion. The next second you remember limitation. One moment you feel confident. The next moment you question timing. Energy disperses in multiple directions. The field receives noise. 17 seconds of uninterrupted focus begins turning scattered light into a laser. When your thought remains singular and emotionally aligned, the internal frequencies synchronize. Mental noise reduces. Emotional contradiction softens. The signal tightens. And as it tightens, it strengthens. This strengthening creates energetic gravity. Gravity is not force. It is attraction generated by mass. When your focus becomes coherent, it accumulates energetic mass. That mass bends probability. It influences surrounding potential. It begins reorganizing the field without visible effort. You are not pushing reality. You are increasing gravitational presence within it. The quantum field reacts to rhythm and consistency. It does not amplify the loudest signal. It amplifies the most stable one. Coherence is stability in motion. It is sustained awareness without fragmentation. This is why discipline of attention matters. Not rigid control. Not strain. But steady presence. When you hold one image, one state, one identity for 17 uninterrupted seconds, you are aligning the photons of your consciousness. And alignment creates amplification. The field interprets coherence as certainty. Certainty does not shout. It does not rush. It does not check the clock. It simply remains. And because it remains, it reshapes. When the signal locks, something subtle shifts. You feel calm. Grounded. Clear. There is no internal argument. No urgency. Just steadiness. That steadiness is not passive. It is powerful. Scattered intention produces scattered outcomes. Coherent intention produces gravitational pull. This is not mystical exaggeration. It is structural alignment. The more synchronized your internal frequencies become, the more precisely the external field reflects them. Not later. Not eventually. Immediately at the energetic level. The physical world may appear unchanged for a time, but the reorganization has begun. Probability has started bending. The field has registered the signal. Coherence is the doorway. Without it, the field maintains the current configuration. With it, reality begins to reorganize around stabilized frequency. You do not need more effort. You need alignment. An alignment, sustained for 17 seconds, is the moment the signal locks. Thought is the electrical signal. Emotion is the magnetic charge. Together, they form the complete instruction. When you think about something, you generate an electrical impulse in the nervous system. Neurons fire. Images form. Possibility is outlined. But electricity alone does not create attraction. It only transmits information. Magnetism is what pulls. Emotion is magnetism. If thought is the blueprint, emotion is the gravitational field around it. The quantum field does not reorganize itself around intellectual preference. It responds to the emotional charge embedded within that preference. You can think about abundance in a flat emotional state, and the signal remains weak. You can think about love while feeling guarded, and the magnetic field surrounding that thought will reflect protection, not connection. Emotion strengthens or weakens the instruction. When thought and emotion align, the signal becomes electromagnetic. Coherent. Amplified. Alive. This is when reality begins to respond with precision. Expansion is the indicator of alignment. When you hold a thought and feel spacious, steady, uplifted, or calmly certain, your system is signaling coherence. There is no internal resistance. The body feels open. Breath deepens. Energy flows. This expansion is confirmation that your emotional charge matches the frequency of what you are focusing on. Contraction signals misalignment. When you hold a thought and feel tightness in your chest, urgency in your stomach, doubt in your throat, the emotional charge contradicts the vision. The signal fragments. The field reflects the contraction rather than the intention. This is guidance. Emotion is not random. It is feedback. It tells you instantly whether you are broadcasting alignment or resistance. Most people try to override contraction with stronger thinking. They attempt to force positive statements over unsettled emotions. But the magnetic field does not respond to force. It responds to honesty. Emotional embodiment means you allow the desired state to move through your body fully. Not as performance. Not as imagination alone. But as present sensation. When you feel gratitude as if it is already done, when you sense calm certainty instead of grasping desire, your magnetic field stabilizes. Stability builds attraction. Intensity without stability burns out quickly. A brief surge of excitement followed by doubt weakens the signal. But steady expansion sustained over 17 seconds strengthens it. The magnetic charge becomes consistent. Consistency bends probability. You do not attract what you think about occasionally. You attract what you emotionally sustain. When your emotional state matches your desired reality, there is no gap between inner and outer. The field reorganizes to remove contradiction. Not because it is granting a wish, but because it is reflecting coherence. Thought sends the message. Emotion powers it. If you want to strengthen your instruction, do not focus on repeating the thought louder. Focus on softening the contraction. Focus on finding expansion. Focus on stabilizing the emotional charge. Because once the magnetic field around your intention becomes steady, the reaction is inevitable. At the deepest level of quantum mechanics, particles do not exist as solid things. They exist as probability waves. Clouds of potential. Multiple possible outcomes suspended in a field of infinite variation. Nothing is fixed until observation occurs. This is where your coherent frequency becomes decisive. When your focus stabilizes and your emotional charge aligns, you are not forcing reality into existence. You are collapsing probability into selection. You are choosing from what already exists in potential form. Reality is not created from nothing. It is selected from infinity. The quantum field contains countless possible timelines. Versions of you who succeeded. Versions who hesitated. Versions who expanded. Versions who contracted. All exist as probabilities. None are solid until identity stabilizes around one. Coherent frequency is the selector. When your internal state becomes steady for 17 seconds, when thought and emotion align without contradiction, your consciousness functions as the observer that collapses the wave. The field reorganizes to match the stabilized identity you are embodying. Not later. Now. Creation happens only in the present moment. The field does not respond to future desire. It does not rearrange itself around who you hope to become someday. It responds to who you are being right now. If you identify as someone waiting, you collapse timelines of waiting. If you identify as someone lacking, you collapse timelines of lack. If you identify as someone fulfilled, aligned, capable, you collapse timelines that reflect fulfillment, alignment, and capability. Identity selects reality. Effort does not. Effort implies distance. Effort implies that the desired state is elsewhere. That distance itself becomes part of the signal. The field faithfully reflects it. Selection requires embodiment. When you stabilize into the feeling of already being, already knowing, already having internally, the probability wave narrows. Other possibilities lose energetic support. The selected timeline gains momentum. This is why the present moment is sacred. It is the only point where collapse occurs. The past is memory. The future is imagination. But now is the intersection where consciousness meets probability. Every second, you are selecting. Most do so unconsciously. They react to circumstances. They identify with current conditions. They collapse the same pattern repeatedly because their identity remains unchanged. But when you hold coherent focus and align emotionally, you interrupt automatic selection. You choose deliberately. You stabilize into a new version of yourself. And the field responds to that stabilization with precision. You are not manufacturing matter. You are narrowing possibility. And once narrowed, reality reorganizes itself around the chosen identity. Events align. Opportunities appear. Perception shifts. The physical world adjusts to eliminate contradiction between your inner state and outer reflection. This is not mystical exaggeration. It is the mechanics of observation. The field waits for coherence. The present moment provides the gateway. Identity makes the choice. 17 seconds is often enough to begin the collapse. And once the collapse begins, the selected timeline gains inevitability. Time feels linear because your perception moves sequentially. You experience moments as if they are arranged in a straight line, one following another, carrying you from past to future. But this sensation is not a universal law. It is a cognitive interpretation. At the level of the quantum field, there is only the present configuration of energy. What you call delay is not time withholding something from you. It is instability in identity. When you shift your focus and begin stabilizing a new frequency, the field responds immediately at the energetic level. The probability wave collapses in the present. The selection occurs now. But if your identity wavers after that selection, if you return to doubt, urgency, or old self-concepts, the signal destabilizes again. The experience of delay emerges from that oscillation. You select. Then you retract. You align. Then you question. You embody. Then you check for evidence. Each fluctuation interrupts continuity. And continuity is what allows the physical reflection to crystallize. Time does not resist you. Inconsistency does. Imagine identity as the axis around which experience organizes. When identity is unstable, the outer world appears slow to respond. Not because the field is inactive, but because the instruction is changing. The field mirrors the dominant pattern. If the dominant pattern remains old, the visible environment remains familiar. Once identity stabilizes, time reorganizes. Stability generates inevitability. When you consistently embody a frequency, when you stop negotiating with it internally, the external rearrangement accelerates. Synchronicities increase. Encounters align. Opportunities appear in ways that feel improbable. This is not luck. It is continuity of signal. Delay dissolves in continuity. The mind interprets change as something that must travel from future to present. But in truth, what you experience as future is simply a configuration of energy not yet reflected physically. When your identity locks into coherence, that configuration is no longer distant. It becomes dominant. And dominant frequencies manifest. The reason many desires feel postponed is not because they require more time. It is because the identity required to sustain them has not fully stabilized. You momentarily step into it during focused intention. Then you step out of it during daily reaction. The field responds to the average, not the peak. 17 seconds initiate selection. But ongoing identity sustains it. When your internal state remains aligned beyond the initial focus, the illusion of delay weakens. The physical world begins to echo the new pattern more quickly. Time is not the gatekeeper. Consciousness is. The present moment is the only point of interaction. Every adjustment in identity occurs now. Every collapse of probability occurs now. What appears as waiting is simply the period during which your frequency is still negotiating with itself. When negotiation ends, manifestation accelerates. Stabilize who you are being, and the timeline reorganizes around that stability. What once felt distant begins to approach without strain. What once seemed delayed reveals that it was never withheld. It was waiting for identity to remain steady. Waiting is a psychological construct. It is born from the belief that what you desire exists somewhere ahead of you, positioned in a future moment that has not yet arrived. But the quantum field does not operate in future tense. It responds only to present identity. 17 seconds of embodied focus bends time because it removes the concept of later. When you hold an intention and feel it as if it is already real, already natural, already part of who you are, you eliminate the gap between now and then. The mind may still measure days and months, but the field reads only the frequency you are stabilizing in this moment. The field does not react to someday. It reacts to now. When you say one day I will be successful, you stabilize an identity that is not yet successful. When you say one day I will be loved, you reinforce the state of not yet loved. The phrase itself becomes part of the signal. And the signal is always interpreted in the present. 17 seconds is powerful because it forces presence. During that focused window, there is no past to analyze and no future to postpone into. There is only the embodied state you are choosing. If you fully feel the confidence of the version of you who has already achieved what you desire, your nervous system begins coding that state as current reality. The psychological experience of waiting dissolves when embodiment stabilizes. You no longer feel like someone trying to reach something. You feel like someone expressing something. The shift is subtle but decisive. Trying implies distance. Expressing implies ownership. The quantum field responds to ownership. When you embody the desired identity in the present moment, probability reorganizes around that embodiment. Not because time moved faster, but because the gap that required time has closed. What once felt far away begins to feel inevitable. I will becomes I am. And that shift bends perception of time. You may still observe physical processes unfolding, but internally there is no urgency. No countdown. No restless scanning for signs. The identity is settled. The state is stabilized. And stability generates acceleration. This is why the language you use internally matters. Remove one day. Remove someday. Remove when this happens, then I will feel. Replace them with present embodiment. Feel the fulfillment now. Feel the alignment now. Feel the certainty now. Not as fantasy, but as identity. 17 seconds of that embodiment initiates the shift. Sustain it, and waiting disappears. You are no longer anticipating life. You are participating in it as the version of yourself who already stands within the desired reality. Time does not need to be fought. It reorganizes around stabilized being. The field only recognizes who you are now. And when now changes, everything rearranges accordingly. In quantum physics, an electron does not travel between orbits the way a planet travels around a star. It does not glide through the space between levels. It does not gradually climb from one state to another. It disappears from one orbit and appears in another. Instantly. No distance crossed. No path traced. Just a shift in state. This is the metaphor for identity. You do not slowly move toward a new timeline. You do not inch closer to your desired reality by effort alone. You shift identity, and when identity stabilizes, the timeline rearranges around you. The movement is internal. The rearrangement is external. Most people believe change is a journey across distance. They imagine progress as forward motion. But in the quantum model, change is a change in energy level. When the energy shifts, the state shifts. Nothing in between. Identity functions the same way. As long as you identify as someone striving, you remain in the orbit of striving. As long as you identify as someone healing, you remain in the orbit of healing. As long as you identify as someone becoming, you remain in the orbit of becoming. But when you stabilize into being, the leap occurs. 17 seconds of coherent, emotionally aligned focus can initiate that shift. Not because 17 seconds is magical, but because it is long enough for identity to stop wavering. Long enough for you to experience yourself as already aligned rather than reaching for alignment. When that stabilization locks, the internal state elevates. And like the electron, you do not travel. You transition. The timeline you previously experienced does not need to be dismantled piece by piece. It loses energetic support. The new configuration gains it. Events begin reflecting the new state. Perception changes. Opportunities align differently. The world appears altered, but what truly shifted was identity. You are not moving through time toward a better version of life. Life is rearranging around the version of you that has stabilized. This is why effort without identity shift feels exhausting. You may take action. You may adjust circumstances. But if the core self-concept remains unchanged, the orbit remains the same. The field continues to mirror the old frequency. The leap requires no physical travel. It requires internal coherence. When you see yourself as capable, when you feel yourself as worthy, when you embody yourself as aligned, not temporarily but steadily, the energetic level changes. And with it, the configuration of reality. You do not drag the future toward you. You become the version of yourself for whom that future is natural. And once natural, it is selected. The quantum leap of identity is silent. It happens within. There is no dramatic announcement. Just a subtle certainty. A calm shift from I hope to I am. That is the moment the orbit changes. And when the orbit changes, the entire experience reorganizes without you needing to force a single outcome. Control feels powerful. But energetically, control is mistrust. When you attempt to control every variable, every timeline, every person, you are sending a subtle signal to the field that you do not trust its responsiveness. That mistrust is contraction. And contraction compresses your frequency. Compression weakens attraction. When you force outcomes, you tighten around them. You monitor constantly. You check for signs. You rehearse scenarios. You attempt to manipulate timing. All of this activity may look like determination, but internally it feels tense. Urgent. Pressurized. That pressure distorts the signal. The quantum field responds to coherence, not coercion. It mirrors stabilized identity, not frantic insistence. When you try to force a result, you reinforce the belief that the result is absent. That absence becomes embedded in your frequency. Forcing repels because it carries resistance within it. Resistance is subtle. It appears as overthinking, as overplanning, as emotional strain, as the need to ensure the outcome. But beneath all of it is one assumption: it will not happen unless I push. That assumption becomes instruction. Allowing operates differently. Allowing is not passivity. It is not withdrawal. It is stable confidence in the signal you have already sent. When you have held coherent focus and embodied the identity aligned with your desire, the energetic instruction has been delivered. Allowing is the decision not to interrupt it. Allowing creates expansion. Expansion feels open in the body. Breath flows easily. There is a quiet certainty rather than urgency. You are not chasing the outcome. You are living from the state that makes it natural. In that openness, your frequency remains steady. Steadiness generates flow. Flow is when events begin to align without strain. Conversations unfold easily. Timing feels supportive. Opportunities appear organically. This is not coincidence. It is the absence of internal resistance. Control tightens the river. Allowing widens it. When you try to dictate how something must occur, you limit the pathways through which the field can reorganize. You compress possibility into a narrow channel. When you allow, you open multiple pathways. The field has more configurations available to reflect your stabilized identity. You are not responsible for managing every detail of manifestation. You are responsible for your frequency. Once identity is coherent and emotionally aligned, forcing becomes unnecessary. The reorganization has begun at the energetic level. Interfering with it through doubt or control only delays visible reflection. True power is relaxed. It is the calm knowing that once the signal locks, the field responds. Not always through predictable routes. Not always on your preferred schedule. But always in alignment with the stabilized frequency you maintain. Control attempts to guarantee the outcome. Allowing trusts the outcome is already seated. And when you release the need to control, expansion returns. Frequency rises. Flow resumes. The field mirrors that openness with precision. This is not surrender to chaos. It is surrender to coherence. Contrast is not punishment. It is refinement. When something unwanted appears in your life, the immediate reaction is often resistance. Why is this happening to me? Why does this keep repeating? But the quantum field is not correcting you. It is clarifying you. Contrast sharpens preference. You cannot know expansion without sensing contraction. You cannot define alignment without recognizing misalignment. When an experience feels uncomfortable, it is revealing the edge of your current frequency. It shows you what you no longer resonate with. This is guidance. Every unwanted experience contains information about what you prefer instead. When you encounter limitation, your desire for freedom strengthens. When you encounter dishonesty, your desire for authenticity clarifies. When you encounter scarcity, your preference for abundance becomes more precise. Contrast refines the signal. Without it, intention remains vague, general, diffused. With it, desire sharpens. It becomes defined. And defined desire stabilizes more easily in consciousness. The mistake is interpreting contrast as confirmation of victimhood. If you see unwanted circumstances as proof that life is against you, you reinforce contraction. You embed resistance into your identity. The field mirrors that reinforcement. The cycle repeats. But if you view contrast as calibration, something shifts. Instead of collapsing into frustration, you expand into clarity. You ask, what is this showing me about what I truly prefer? You allow the discomfort to reveal the boundary. And once revealed, you redirect your focus toward the refined preference. Contrast does not exist to hold you back. It exists to sharpen alignment. When you experience something that feels misaligned, your emotional guidance system activates immediately. Contraction appears. That contraction is not there to trap you. It is there to signal that your current focus or identity does not match your deeper expansion. You are not meant to fight contrast. You are meant to extract its clarity. The moment you do, you stop reinforcing the unwanted state. You stop retelling the story of the problem. You stop embedding it into your identity. Instead, you stabilize the refined desire that contrast has revealed. And that stabilization strengthens coherence. Contrast becomes fuel rather than obstruction. It adds precision to your frequency. It strengthens the gravitational pull of the preferred timeline. It removes ambiguity. This is why expansion often follows discomfort. Not because suffering is required, but because clarity accelerates alignment. When you know exactly what you no longer accept, your focus becomes cleaner. When your focus becomes cleaner, your frequency stabilizes faster. The field does not punish you with contrast. It responds to your refinement through it. If you refuse to adopt victim identity, contrast loses its power to trap you. It becomes feedback. Information. Adjustment. And each adjustment sharpens your signal. The more precisely you know what you are aligned with, the more steadily you can embody it. And steady embodiment is what reorganizes reality. Contrast is not the obstacle. It is the tuning mechanism. Power is rarely loud. It does not spike. It does not tremble. It does not rush forward demanding results. True creative power is steady. Grounded. Calm. Calm receptivity is stronger than emotional intensity. Many believe manifestation requires high excitement, dramatic visualization, overwhelming passion. They generate emotional spikes, feel temporarily elevated, and then collapse back into doubt. The spike feels powerful, but it is unstable. And instability weakens the signal. The quantum field responds to steadiness. Steady certainty without urgency creates a stable frequency. When you embody the identity aligned with your desire and remain relaxed within it, the signal becomes continuous. Continuous signals build momentum. Momentum accelerates reflection. Urgency, on the other hand, signals lack. When you feel that something must happen quickly, that it needs to arrive soon, that you cannot be at peace until it does, your frequency contracts. Even if the desire is clear, the emotional undertone reveals doubt in timing. That doubt becomes part of the instruction. Allowing removes urgency. Allowing means you trust that the selection has already occurred at the energetic level. You do not hover over it. You do not repeatedly check if it is forming. You stabilize in the identity that makes it natural, and you let the field reorganize without interference. This is receptive strength. Receptivity is not weakness. It is alignment with flow. When you are receptive, your system is open. Your nervous system is not in fight or flight. Your body is not bracing against uncertainty. It is relaxed, yet alert. Calm, yet certain. Certainty without tension is powerful. When you hold your desired state with this calm expectancy, you are not chasing. You are not grasping. You are not convincing. You are being. And being is what selects timelines. Stable expectation accelerates manifestation more than force ever could. Force attempts to push reality into shape. Expectation assumes reality is already adjusting. The difference is subtle but decisive. Force compresses energy. Expectation expands it. Expanded energy interacts more freely with the field. It allows multiple pathways for alignment. When you remain calm, you remain coherent. Emotional spikes disrupt coherence because they are difficult to sustain. Calm alignment can be sustained indefinitely. It becomes your baseline. And baseline frequency determines the average signal the field reflects. You do not need to feel ecstatic to manifest. You need to feel steady. You need to feel natural in the identity you are embodying. As if it makes sense. As if it is normal. As if it is simply who you are now. That calm normalization of your desired state is powerful. It removes resistance. It dissolves urgency. It communicates certainty without strain. And the field responds to that certainty by organizing events, people, and circumstances around it. Allowing is acceleration. Stable expectation is gravity. And when you remain calm within your alignment, manifestation stops feeling like pursuit and begins feeling like inevitability. There is no separation between you and the quantum field. What you call reality is not an external force acting upon you. It is a reflective surface responding to you. Not occasionally. Not selectively. Constantly. This is the mirror principle. The world does not decide who you are. It reveals who you are being. Every circumstance, every interaction, every pattern that repeats is a reflection of stabilized frequency. Not as punishment. Not as reward. As resonance. The field does not judge your signal. It does not prefer one identity over another. It simply reflects the dominant vibration you maintain. Reality mirrors inner state automatically. If your inner world carries tension, the outer world will present tension. If your inner world stabilizes in confidence, the outer world will echo confidence. If your internal dialogue is filled with doubt, you will encounter situations that trigger doubt. Not because life is against you, but because the mirror is precise. The precision is neutral. When you understand this, blame dissolves. You stop accusing circumstances. You stop fighting reflections. Instead, you adjust the source. The source is not outside. It is the frequency you embody. The quantum field is not separate from your consciousness. It is responsive to it because it is interconnected with it. You are not projecting into a distant void. You are interacting within a unified system. Your internal state is part of the structure that shapes external events. This is why control fails. You cannot argue with a mirror. You cannot command it to show something different while standing in the same position. To change the reflection, you change your stance. You shift your posture. You alter your expression. The world follows. When you stabilize a new identity for 17 seconds and beyond, when you embody expansion rather than contraction, the mirror has no choice but to update. It reflects what is dominant. It reflects what is steady. Not what you wish occasionally. What you are consistently. Judgment disappears when you see the mechanics clearly. There is no moral scale embedded in the field. No hierarchy of deserving. Only frequency and response. The mirror principle removes mysticism and replaces it with clarity. You are not at the mercy of circumstance. You are at the center of resonance. This does not mean every event is consciously chosen. It means every experience reflects an underlying pattern of identity. Some patterns are inherited. Some are conditioned. Some are unconscious. But once recognized, they can be shifted. Recognition changes the source. When the source changes, the reflection follows automatically. You do not need to chase external correction. You do not need to manipulate outcomes. You adjust your inner state, and the mirror reorganizes. This is not symbolic language. It is structural reality. The field reflects without hesitation, without bias, without delay at the energetic level. The physical world may appear slower to rearrange, but the reflection begins instantly. You are not inside a rigid world trying to survive it. You are within a responsive mirror learning to stabilize your light. Transformation does not occur through struggle. It occurs through recognition. Effort belongs to the mind that believes it must travel somewhere to become something. Recognition belongs to the awareness that understands it is selecting from what already exists. The difference is subtle, but it changes everything. When you struggle to improve your life, you reinforce the identity of someone not yet there. When you attempt to force growth, you stabilize the belief that growth is distant. The field responds not to the effort itself, but to the identity embedded within that effort. Being selects timelines. Doing reflects them. Recognition is the moment you see clearly that you are not trying to become aligned. You are remembering that alignment is your natural state. You are not constructing worthiness. You are noticing that worthiness was never absent. You are not chasing expansion. You are allowing it. This shift from becoming to being is irreversible. Once awareness expands to see that reality mirrors identity, you cannot return to unconscious reaction. You may temporarily fall into old patterns, but you will recognize them as patterns. And recognition dissolves unconsciousness. Awareness cannot contract back into ignorance. The moment you understand that the quantum field reflects stabilized frequency, you stop arguing with circumstances. You stop negotiating with delay. You stop blaming external conditions. Instead, you observe your identity. Who am I being right now? That question replaces what should I do next? Because doing without aligned being recreates the same orbit. But being, stabilized even for 17 seconds, initiates a new configuration. Action that emerges from stabilized identity feels natural. Effortless. Precise. It does not feel forced. Recognition removes friction. It reveals that you are not a small figure pushing against a massive universe. You are consciousness interfacing with a responsive field. Your identity is the organizing principle. When identity shifts, experience reorganizes. You do not need to work harder to become the version of yourself you envision. You need to recognize that version as available now. The recognition is internal. It is quiet. It does not require announcement. It feels like certainty settling into your chest. A calm understanding that the timeline aligned with your stabilized identity is already selected. From that recognition, behavior adjusts naturally. Choices refine. Boundaries strengthen. Opportunities become visible. Not because you forced them into view, but because your perception aligned with them. Being is creative. Doing is expressive. When you prioritize recognition over effort, you remove resistance. You stop straining toward outcomes. You stabilize within identity. And stabilized identity collapses probability without struggle. This awareness cannot be undone. Once you see that transformation is recognition, not battle, you stop fighting yourself. You stop trying to manufacture change. You allow it. And in allowing, you select. Not through force. Through being. 17 seconds is where it begins. Not because the number itself is mystical, but because it is long enough for scattered thought to become coherent, for emotion to align with intention, for identity to stabilize beyond fluctuation. In those 17 seconds, you are no longer wishing. You are selecting. Focus initiates the signal. Emotion powers it. Identity locks it. Allowing sustains it. Time reorganizes around it. This is the synthesis. When you hold a thought steadily for 17 uninterrupted seconds, you align the internal frequencies of your mind. When you allow emotion to match that thought without contradiction, you charge it magnetically. When you embody the identity that naturally lives in that state, you collapse probability in the present moment. And when you release the need to force the outcome, you maintain expansion instead of contraction. That is when the field reacts. Not to effort. Not to repetition. To coherence. Creation happens now. It never happens later. Every day, whether consciously or unconsciously, you are stabilizing frequencies. You are selecting timelines. You are reinforcing identity. The difference is whether you do it deliberately. Daily application is simple. Choose one intention. Not 10. 1. Sit with it. Feel it as present. Allow your body to register it as natural. Remove urgency. Remove someday language. Stabilize in calm certainty. Hold it for 17 seconds without interruption. If doubt appears, notice it and return. If impatience rises, soften it and return. The practice is not perfection. The practice is stabilization. 17 seconds builds momentum. Repeated daily, it recalibrates baseline identity. And baseline identity is what reality mirrors most consistently. You are not small within this process. You are the focal point through which the field organizes. You are not begging the universe for change. You are instructing it through stabilized being. Every moment of coherent presence is an act of sovereignty. You do not need to control outcomes. You do not need to chase timing. You do not need to fight circumstances. You need to recognize who you are being, and choose deliberately. 17 seconds can interrupt years of unconscious repetition. 17 seconds can dissolve the illusion of delay. 17 seconds can initiate a quantum leap of identity. Not because the world is fragile. Because it is responsive. If this recognition is fully embodied in you now, subscribe and share with someone who needs to hear this. Stand in your awareness. Hold your frequency. Allow reality to reorganize without strain. Let your identity stabilize beyond doubt. Let calm expectation replace urgency. Let expansion replace contraction. You are not waiting for permission. You are selecting. And every 17 seconds of coherent presence is a declaration of authorship over your experience. Share this with someone who needs to hear it before their timeline closes.